The world of private passenger aircraft is all about comfort and luxury. Big corporations ferry their top executives in jets with well-appointed interiors. And the world's uber-wealthy spare no expense making their private planes as lavish as their homes. Just like building or renovating a house, you can choose all the decorative finishings of your new aircraft. Everything from the floor covering and seat fabric to the style, wood type, and color of the cabinetry. It's critical not to weigh the aircraft down, so cabinets can't be made from particle board. Even plywood is far too heavy. The solution? Panels made of honeycomb-shaped hard paper, sandwiched between fiberglass sheets. Strong like particle board, but 1/4 the weight. Computerized machines cut the panels to shape and drill holes for threaded inserts into which bolts and screws for hinges and handles will fasten. After refining the holes with hand tools, workers hold the inserts in the holes with tape while they inject epoxy glue to bond the inserts permanently. The panels adjoin with a tongue and groove system, so computerized machines cut the edges accordingly. The material is fibrous, so the cut edges are rough. Workers smooth them before gluing and assembling. Certain panel surfaces are too hard to access after assembly, so they receive their decorative wood veneer facade before being cut to shape. These pieces are covered in a protective film to prevent damaging the veneer during assembly. Once a unit is assembled, workers make sure it's square. They also verify the dimensions. Meanwhile, an automated belt sander preps the veneer. Veneer is wood that's been sliced into thin sheets. For these cabinet facades, the sheets are a mere 1.2 millimeters thick. The most typical choices are walnut, ebony, cherry, and birch. Workers disassemble the unit to access each component for veneering. They lay the component on the back of the veneer sheet and trace it. Then they follow the pencil line with a fine-toothed veneer saw. Next, they spray contact cement on the component surface and the veneer's underside. A plastic sheet in between prevents contact until the veneer is correctly positioned. After pressing down the veneer, they place the component in a vacuum bag and suction out all the air. This flattens the veneer evenly over the entire surface. 8 hours later, the component comes out of the vacuum bag, and with a router, they trim the veneer flush all around. Then they glue the edges with epoxy and apply strips of hardwood to match the facade. The epoxy cures in a couple of hours, at which point they sand the edges to remove any excess glue. Now they reinstall the component and measure to make sure the surrounding gaps are precisely 1.6 millimeters. Should some tweaking be required, they simply sand edges or adjust hinges. They disassemble yet again and touch up any imperfections that sanding the edges caused. Once the touch-up paint is dry, they spray on the first of 9 coats of lacquer. Each coat has to dry overnight. They sand it twice before applying the next coat, first with an orbital sander, then with a sanding block to remove any waves in the lacquer left by the orbital sander. After the last coat of lacquer dries, they do a final sanding with a very fine grit paper. Then, using a wool pad and polishing compound, they polish the surface to a reflective high-gloss finish. Workers now reassemble the components for the last time. They install the fixtures and accessories, the decorative hardware, and everything electrical. The cabinetry unit is finished. Not only does the luxurious look befit a multi-million-dollar private aircraft, it's also, as they say in tech terms, plug and play. You just install and plug it into the aircraft, and everything runs. No additional wiring required.